Morning. This is Rich from Tennessee Homestead. How the heck are you? Well, here we go, folks. I'm going to start trying to give you some common sense and uh, applied to this insanity going on out here in the agricultural world and the insanity in your grocery stores, and try to get you to understand you're being poisoned and you need to wake up and you're running out of time. So let's start. Let's start with the ag business. What's going on out there with these companies? Why are they doing what they're doing? Okay. You have to look way back to the de facto ban on DDT in this country. It left the agriculture in this country in bad straits. Matter of fact, I remember a song that from back then, a Big Yellow Taxi, and I don't recall who the artist was, but one of their lyrics was, "Mr. Farmer, put away your DDT. Give me spots on my apples, but leave the birds and the bees." Well, folks, the fact is that was not the real mindset of the American consumer. And they wanted spotless apples. So the supermarkets gave you spotless apples, usually from South America, and usually from countries that were still using DDT. Okay. So did we ban DDT? Just the use of it in this country, and it really wasn't a ban. Sugar cane, they have an exemption. They can use DDT. Pineapple, they can use DDT. There's several other crops like rice and things of this nature where you can, depending on your location and so forth, get an exemption and use DDT. So was it banned in this country? No. It was so heavily regulated and you had to get special licensing. But no, it's still being used, but on very limited amounts. The food you're buying in the grocery stores, a lot of it comes from overseas. And because of that, it's imported, and that's imported from countries that still use DDT. So that was a big bunch of hype, folks. Okay, it truly was. But it left a gap here for American agriculture. American agriculture was coming apart at the seams. And then our good buddies at Monsanto in 1975 or thereabouts came up with a product called Roundup. And it was the replacement for and served a lot of the same functions as what they were using the DDT for and things of that nature. Very strong herbicide and works well. By the way, herbicides, just for your information, are deemed pesticides because they usually work on both. Like the song says, leave me the birds and the bees. Yeah. Okay. So you start looking at it that way. In 1975, they started using a new product put out by Monsanto. And all the other major chemical companies jumped on board shortly thereafter with their own versions called Roundup and assorted other names. One of the oldest ones was going back was the atrazines and things of this nature. The thing with it was, is let's say you were planting corn. You could go in and use these herbicides as a pre-emergent, then plant your corn, let it generate and grow, but the weeds coming up in between rows and things of this nature after planted, you had to deal with the old-fashioned way with a chisel plow or something of this nature to clear your rows, because you could not go back and spray that field again with the herbicides. It'll kill your crop. And they even came out with some low-level sprayers. It was just an inch or two off the ground and put out a very narrow bandwidth to help with weed control and things of that nature. But they did find out that their yields were way down using that equipment and that type of spraying. So that's where it came from originally. So with these geniuses at these chemical companies sat back and said, man, if we could develop a plant that you could spray the heck out of with these herbicides, man, that would be an instant $1 billion sale market right there. And so they went to work and they came up with it. Now you have these GMO herbicide, they call them Roundup Ready, but just about all these companies have their own version. A seed that you can plant, and you can use your herbicide as a pre-emergent. You can use herbicide as post-emergent once your plants come up. No damage to your crop. Kill everything else, but no damage to your crop. So it became a multi-billion-dollar industry. GMO seeds and herbicides. Wow. And you had a group of players in there. And the big ones were companies like Bayer Pharmaceutical, or their agricultural division. Monsanto. You would expect these two guys to be in the middle of it, and that's Dow and DuPont. But then we also had some relatively newcomers that were made up of a merger of two pharma companies to form up Syngenta. Okay. Kind of makes you scratch your head as what in the heck is big pharmaceutical companies doing messing in us? You're going to say. But then they got greedy. Corporations, they are greed machines, people. That's all they are. It's all about the money. If you think for 30 seconds they care about you, your family, your life, your health, you're delusional. All they care about is money and power. Okay? If you put that in your head and understand where these companies are coming from, why is it companies like Monsanto, if their product is so good, so safe, have a cafeteria that serves only non-GMO food? Lions and tigers and bears. That right there should have you backing away. What? You won't eat this stuff? And you're feeding it to my family? Really? But it starts getting a bit more dangerous. These guys started back in the 90s, right on through 2000, so forth. They started buying up seed producers, the big ones, starting, and got control of these companies. And the ones that they couldn't utilize for their products, or it wasn't profitable to utilize for their profits, they just shut them down. Just shut them down, pat them on the head, have a nice life. So twofold, they were taking charge of taking the middleman out of their seed sales, and they were also getting rid of their competition. And we're talking about big money companies. I had in this GMOs, This Ain't Good video, I had worked on through the information of one of the better trade magazines that covered this issue. And they were looking at just business end of it. And they didn't hardly scratch the surface. These companies have acquired, let's put it this way, they control the seed industry, period. There's very little left out there. But some of the information that I found concerned me. Now, these companies have been also buying the heritage seed companies up. Heritage seed, the quote-unquote non-GMO heritage seeds. Why? Got to ask yourself why. And in asking that question, I found really three common answers. They're hedging their investment. In case GMOs bite the dust, that way they always have heritage seeds to fall back on. Okay, heritage seeds is a very small percentage of a seed market. And if they own these other seed producing companies, could they not switch over pretty quickly? Who knows? Second thing is that as people get better educated on the good food movement, uh, they're worried about how much of their market share this could take away. So the second answer that you keep getting back is they're getting rid of the competition. They don't want these seeds out there. Okay. And it's highly possible. You know, if all you can get is a GMO seed, that's it. It's all available. They've cornered the market at that point. And then the last one is they're going to leave you with the, and there's quite a bit of evidence that point this direction too, folks. GMO crops are extremely, according to Brazilian courts and things of this nature, other nations' courts, are extremely invasive, i.e., they'll pollinate plants like a son of a gun and screw up the DNA of a pure plant. If you corrupt the natural seed base that's available to the market, sooner or later they're going to be coming out going, well, these plants are GMO. They have been cross-pollinated, and if you're growing them, you need to pay us a royalty. They deem, if you plant 10 tomato plants, the courts in this country have said that Monsanto put up on their website, and it literally caused a loss in a lawsuit, and we'll get into that more in courts. Because Monsanto said on their website, oh, if your crop is only contaminated 1% or so, we're not going to sue you. Folks, that's telling you if you have 10 tomato plants and 2 of them test out to be GMO, Monsanto could sue you if you save those seeds and replant them. I doubt very seriously that they would, because, they want to make money. But that's where you're at. So to make it very brief, these companies, Bayer, Monsanto, Dow, DuPont, Syngenta, they've pretty much captured the seed market. They're working on it. If they haven't totally by now taken most all of it over, they'll be doing it shortly. And like I said, when it comes to heritage seeds, you have to ask, one of the three is going to happen here. Somehow, I don't think they're hedging their bets. Okay? And in some of the court records and so forth, you'll see where they are, and have shown that they are more interested in contaminating non-GMO crops. That's the quickest way to spread their crops. They want to control your food. So right now, though, you have, about 6 or 7, I think 6 major players in this whole thing. And then through the SEC and through some of the Wall Street information, if you want to dig into all that dry technical stuff, you're going to find that there's some mergers underway. And I'm not talking about mergers of these big chemical companies and pharmaceutical companies with seed companies. You're looking at Bayer and Monsanto are in the process of putting together and getting approved a merger. That's right, folks. Bayer and Monsanto. Dow and DuPont are putting together a merger of their agricultural divisions. Syngenta, and I'll tell you the little interesting story with them, and ChemChina. another player in the worldwide GMO scenario emerging. This is not tinfoil hat stuff. The SEC's got the paperwork. They're in process. So then you're going to be down to having really 3 major players in the food market worldwide. Something to think about. When you put the entire food supply system in the hands of 3 major corporations, my friends, you're just asking for a mess. And that's what you're going to get. You're going to get a mess. So to keep this from getting real long, that's pretty much what's going on with the financial end of the agriculture. The next video is going to cover, and the reason I'm trying to get this one out so soon is other people are beginning to talk about it, and it needs to be told. A lot of folks are feeling the urgency to get the word out of get prepared. We could face a major food crisis in this country and in the world in the very, very near future. Well, this next video is going to cover just that. It's happening right now. The food, which, by the way, most of your diet is made up of really 2 or 3 sources: corn, soybean, and wheat. Monsanto, and I'll definitely include that in here, claims that they didn't mess with wheat, that there's no GMO wheat out there. Folks, that's most probably a lie. And here's why. They have had farmers reporting that they're having Roundup resistant plants, wheat plants, show up in their crops, volunteer plants. You don't get a Roundup resistant plant by accident. Okay? It just doesn't happen that way. They're genetically modified. They have to be to live in this stuff. So each of the farmers, the 2 that went forward. Now, you are not going to get the average farmer who sees there's a problem out in his field, okay, going to do something stupid like contact the EPA over it. You're looking to be bankrupt. What happens when they come out and say destroy your crop? You're done. Okay? So probably 99% of farmers out there, if they found this to be happening in their fields, aren't going to say a cotton picking word to nobody. Not a word. Out of fear of what that could financially do to them. They're going to be silent. A couple did. And your government, looking out for your best interest, I'm sure, and wanting to make sure that they weren't being lied to by Monsanto, asked Monsanto to go take a look at it. Check it out. Tell us what's going on here. Monsanto's official response was, and by the way, both these farms were not involved in this experimental GMO seed that Monsanto said, oh, we played with it for a while. But that was 3 decades ago. 3 decades ago. Farmers, you tell me, you think that seed's going to lay out there in a working crop field for 3 decades before it comes to the surface? There is no way. That stuff had to go out there probably the year before, maybe the year before that. It is not going to lay in that soil for 3 decades. That's just not going to happen. Okay? So, are they telling us stories? Yeah, they probably are telling us stories. Does your government much care that they're telling stories? Absolutely not. The first thing you have to understand is that our government's bought and paid for. It was sold out. They could care less. Any research that comes out, even in like the European Union and so forth, that comes out showing that these products are hazardous to health, that they're affecting humans, things of this nature, they're going to go, oh, look there, they forgot to dot that I over here and they didn't cross their T over there. So it's junk science. We're going to totally ignore the whole thing. Even governments like ours is adapting the testing done by Monsanto as the only acceptable scientific testing. The only acceptable scientific testing. If it deviates from what they did, then it's no good. Okay? And one of the things that they do is they go out and they'll take and spray their herbicides out on their crop and then come back and take soil samples at the end of the season. And they take those to the government and say, see, this field was treated with our herbicide and these soil samples show that there's none of that left. It's all gone. It breaks down in the environment. I'm going to show you what they found out really is happening, and it's now coming back to haunt. Okay? They found it does not break down. It sinks. You spray it on the surface, and it goes down. And your soil samples up here at the surface no longer show residue of the herbicides. And they spray again, and the whole mess sinks down. And you spray it again, and now the mess is like this, and it sinks down. And it keeps sinking down until it hits a hard clay base or a rock base and stops sinking. And then it starts this. Yeah, it builds back up. The average is within 11 years of Roundup use on a field. You can go back and check that field now at the end of the season, and it tests as high as the first day you sprayed Roundup on it because it went nowhere. It laid there. What the plants didn't soak up, still right there in the ground. And that is what we're going to talk about next. Okay? To tell you why you need to get off that food and you need to prepare. We have got a situation on the horizon. And folks, it's not 20 years down the road. It's not 10 years down the road. It's happening right now. And the media's not talking about it. The ag magazines aren't talking about it. Nobody wants to talk about it. And here's why. It could destroy our exports of things like soybean, and it could panic the world. It could hurt the agriculture market worse than it's going to get hurt now. And that's going to be coming up in part 2. So understand these big companies have pretty much monopolized the seed industry. They are gobbling up heritage seed companies, and they're merging together to form 3 massive global conglomerates. Common sense tells you that's not going to be good for the average Joe. Okay? Because what happens when you can no longer get good seed? You better have a kid that you raise up to be a microbiologist so that he can go in there and take the genes of these plants and put them back right, if that's even possible. Something to think about, folks, when you look at it from a common sense viewpoint. 3 major corporations that control the seeds of this planet. Control. Putting poison on the ground that they know full well doesn't disappear into the environment. And the fact that this poisoning, in a 10 to 11 year time span, keep in mind, this has been going on since 75. Depends on how deep that Roundup has to go down before it hits bedrock or extremely hard clay that it can't pass through. And now it's coming back to the surface. Something to think about. Common sense tells you this has got to stop. And it is very harmful to your health. So this is Red Tennessee Homestead. I'm going to try to get these things out. You're going to get them raw, unedited, because we just want to get them out to you because, I'm going to send you out. I'm going to put a link down here at the bottom. One of the things I'm reading all the white papers and all this nonsense, and then I stumbled across a documentary that was pretty good, covered a lot of this stuff. And I'm going to put a link to it on this down here at the bottom. I probably either this video or the next one coming up. And it's, if you're one who don't want to spend weeks and weeks researching white papers and all that, you can go back and take a look at this stuff. But all of it's out there, folks. All of it's out there. A lot of it's very technical and very dry. Anyway, this has went long. This is Rich from Tennessee Homestead. Start thinking, folks. Your life may depend on it. Have a great day.